Captain Logan. I've got Connor Nielsen here. Today we're going to tell you how we felt about Onward, the new movie from Pixar. And Connor, would you set us up? Would you tell us a little bit about what Onward is about?
Onward is a premise that probably the closest shorthand I can think of is Bright, the Netflix movie from a few years ago, directed by David Ayer. Basically, it's like, what if Middle Earth kind of style elves and fantasy sort of thing, what if that progressed to the modern day with like technology and all that sort of stuff? And then it tells the story of a family, specifically an elf kid turning the age of 16, and this is him becoming a man in this culture, and his older brother, voiced by Chris Pratt, he is voiced by Tom Holland, and their mother comes to them on Ian, the younger one's birthday, and says, your father, who was dead before the younger one was born, is giving you this. He wanted to meet you guys, and they can bring him back for a whole day, and they only bring back his bottom half. So they are going on a quest to...
He gives them a magic stick that does this.
Oh yeah, a magic staff.
It's a magic staff. It's got a stone in it, and when they try to bring him back, the stone gets destroyed before the entire body comes up. So the quest they go on is to find another one of those.
Yeah, and along the way, it's a Pixar movie. There's heart, there's humor, and there's wacky characters. So, Captain Logan, how did you feel about Onward?
Well, I'll tell you, sir, and let me start before I do a sign flip and say that this was a movie I had very little interest in, except that it was a Pixar thing, so I was curious to see how they would handle this and if they'd stick the landing. This wasn't a premise that I was especially intrigued by. Like doing the darker thing with this, like Bright did, I think kind of got my attention a little bit more, just because the idea of a sword and sorcery fantasy thing, like really serious thing done now, but with, modern day technology and stuff, seemed like a really interesting thing to do. But doing it and of course Bright's not great. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, but it's not a good movie. But doing that as the next kind of like, for lack of a better way to put it, like cute Pixar idea, like, well, we did fish, and we did robots, and we did monsters, and we did, like, what else do we have? Fantasy thing. What kind of cool spin can we do on that? I guess we'll set it in present day. It seemed, I don't want to say bottom of the barrel, but it just didn't seem like an especially, inspired premise. And then I saw it, and it gave me that thing that I've been waiting for a fantasy thing, because as a lot of you guys know, I'm not a big fantasy person. I've been waiting for that fantasy movie that wins me more over on the genre and makes me want to look more at fantasy things. Last thing on earth that I thought would do that. But I mean, I'm not just feeling it like super, super bright green. This is spectacular. I liked about everything about this movie. It got me hard. This is a old school good Pixar movie. And they've had some wins lately. I didn't see Coco. People say good things about that. I've not looked at that yet. Did you see that?
I did see Coco, yeah.
But this was, we had Toy Story 4 last year, which was better than it had any right to be. I thought that was absolutely wonderful. As you say, it's got the heart, it's got the adventure, it's got all the stuff you expect with Pixar. But the other thing it's got is the archetypes that don't go exactly the way you expect them to, where you like establish characters that you've seen before, and you're like, I know exactly where this is going. I know just what this formula is going to be. And then it starts to subvert it, and this is a hard movie to talk about without giving too much away about the character arcs in this, but this is a really good coming-of-age thing. It's a really good, confidence building story. It's one of the fresher takes, I think, in a while on the it's not the destination, it's the journey, kind of story. But it, like I said, it keeps setting up stuff where I think I know where it's going to go in exactly the same way as the other movie for Pixar this director directed, which was Monsters University. That movie does exactly the same thing. And hilariously, it also, and I know you've not seen that movie, but also it hilariously takes the kind of like soccer mom archetype that's in Monsters University and makes her a cooler character in this, which I thought was really funny. It's interesting the ways in which this is a follow-up to Monsters University, idea-wise and stuff. But like I said, I want to be careful not to give away too much, but I do feel the need to at least say it's a movie that I'm immediately going, okay, it's a father-son story, and if they really stick the landing on that, it's probably going to bring me to tears because I'm a sucker for those. And then it ends up being more of a story about siblings, and that got me just as much as the father-son thing probably would have. So if you've seen the trailer, you know that, Connor alluded to earlier, you've got the dad who, throughout the movie, is just a pair of legs. And I'm like, I don't know how that has legs. Like, I don't know what you do with a pair of legs. How is this guy gonna have any characterization at all? And it does as much as it possibly can with that in drawing this character without a torso or a head. And then part of the point is to not do too much with that character, which is really neat. Connor, I think my favorite thing, though, about this movie is the social commentary, and it has a lot of fun with it. It's not heavy-handed, but the social commentary about the way we commercialize history. I love that. This is because I'm sure some fantasy folks, fans of fantasy, looked at the trailers of this, looked at the initial premise, and were like, "Why can't we have just a straight up cool fantasy thing? We don't make enough of those things. Why do we have to do present day in order to, in technology and stuff, in order to bring people in?" This is a love letter to the genre. The folks working on this love sword and sorcery fantasy. They love dragon stuff. This is one of the coolest dragons I've seen in a long time. At the end of this movie, the way that's handled, it's wicked cool. But like, it loves role-playing games, it loves Lord of the Rings type stuff, just the whole gamut of fantasy stuff and adventure. It gets the hero's journey. This is a really good kind of nice spin, nice subversion of the standard hero's journey story. The way we, resist the call is different than I've seen it in a while. You've got you go on an adventure that's really dangerous, and then you have to come back home. The way we get back home is really different than the way that's usually done. And so I don't know. That was all great, but like I said, it's got that really cool social commentary about how we as a culture have kind of like lost our thirst for adventure and lost our sense of wonder. And so in making this a fantasy story, it makes the fantasy elements what we've done in our culture about history and stuff, where there is no frontier left except for space, and a lot of us aren't as interested in that as we were in the 60s, right? And so with this, it's like what we've lost is that zeal for magic. Like, we had that, we replaced it with science, and now we don't we're not interested in that anymore, and we've kind of forgotten all the cool stuff about this universe. So you still have all those magical creatures, but they don't do any of the magic stuff anymore, and they've kind of lost themselves, and the culture's lost its identity, while a lot of individuals have lost their identities. And but we have a lot of fun with that in making fun of really commercial restaurant chains and things like that. All of that was hilarious and wonderful. This is killer, I think. Just on a first viewing, I don't have a worse thing. Maybe something will spring to mind as Connor's talking. I don't like to throw around instant classic. It felt like that as I was walking out of the theater. Connor, how'd you feel about this one?
Okay, I got to do something really fast. I got to step away from the mic a little bit. Told you so!
What do you mean?
Look, this movie made me feel like I need to open up a company called Pixar Predictions, Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was right about Toy Story 4. I thought that was going to be great, and it was. And then I saw Onward, and I'm like, the premise, a little bit of legs, brothers. I think this is going to be great. And you and my friends and everybody was like, oh, man, really? This? And I'm like, it's going to be great. And it was great.
But
It
in
was
my
so good.
defense, but in my defense, I don't care about the genre generally.
Okay.
Like I just can't get it. Like I've never watched How to Train Your Dragon. I just can't bring myself to care. Like stuff like that. So it wasn't the premise of, oh, we're gonna do it in the modern day. For me, it was just, okay, Pixar's finally doing their fantasy thing. Of course, they've got to do that. It's obligatory. They're going to do that. I didn't know if it would be good or not. I just didn't care about the premise. I was like, I guess I got to go see that. I was hoping to be won over. I was more than won over. Like I said, I know you haven't seen Monsters University. That's one of my favorites. That's in the top 3. This is to that caliber, and I don't know how to rank this right now, but it feels top 3 or 4 for me at the moment. Like, oh my god, it's good.
Between my two coasters, I'm definitely feeling it. So look, the defining aspect of my life is my brotherhood with my twin brother.
Yeah.
Like that's just something about me and my entire life. Like I've never known a day without my twin brother, and we've had, our ups and downs, and we have a little brother who is 9 years younger than us, and
oh wow, yeah,
he's scrawny, he's skinny, he's got curly hair, he looks exactly like the main character from this movie.
I thought of you watching this. I was like, if this doesn't resonate with you, I'm missing something, because and they didn't go where you thought they would with that arc, right?
No, they did not. And our dad basically raised us. When our parents got divorced, my dad got custody of we 3 brothers. So it almost felt like it was tailor made for me.
Yeah.
And but like you, I'm not a big fantasy guy. And so the whole idea of like the hero's journey and like the quest and all that stuff, it's when I was a kid growing up in the early 2000s and, throughout the whole decade, the Chosen One narratives were like aplenty.
Oh,
you had
yeah.
Star Wars prequels, you had Harry Potter, you had The Matrix, you had, Lord
Buffy.
of the Rings. I never watched Buffy, but you had Buffy.
Oh,
you had,
okay, but Buffy was literally the Chosen One. Like,
okay. But a lot of that kind of narrative I noticed mostly in like fantasy stuff, and I just got tired of it. And like fantasy is just generally not something that interests me. And then when I got into middle school, everyone was like, Percy Jackson and the Olympians because fantasy's in, and I'm like, I have no interest in this, so I miss out on all of that. And so if anything was ever going to get me into this, like, it's this. And I can't really be in like objective with a lot of this movie because I saw so much of my own life in these characters and in the world they inhabit. Like Guinevere is one of the great screen cars ever.
Yeah.
And like there's so much of like my brother's first car is in that, with the busted odometer and like all that stuff. So what I liked about this is like the relationship it gets between its 2 brothers, and it's not a traditional like we don't get along. It's actually a very believable brother thing, and there is a scene that involves an illusion spell that is classic Pixar. The way it starts, the humor it gets out of that, but then the stuff it reveals about character and the deeper relationships. It felt like you had said, it felt like pre-Toy Story 3 Pixar.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like this quite as much as Toy Story 4, but notwithstanding Toy Story 4, this is my favorite Pixar film since Inside Out.
I think it's a better story than Toy Story 4. Like, as far as my personal sensibilities go, I guess I would have to put Toy Story 4 above it, I guess, but, like, I don't know. The story's so textbook. Like...
Yeah. So this is a movie I know I'm going to keep watching. And the movie I think to compare it to most is actually Shazam, because that is a movie that takes a pretty familiar structure, and this one does as well. And it's able to be more than the sum of its parts, I think.
Yep.
I have a worse thing when it comes to this movie. My worst thing is the opening 10-ish minutes. The dialogue was really on the nose in terms of setting everything up. There's a little thing with a list that, while the payoff in the third act is really excellent, that opening bit where it's like going to school and trying to find confidence, I was honestly kind of uncomfortable, like a cringeworthy, like, oh, I hope this gets better.
Taking it
But
all as a piece, though, it's doing that to subvert your expectations later. And again, that's exactly what Monsters University did, where it gives you a really standard setup, where like that movie looks like your standard, like college goof off movie. And I'm like, really, I gotta sit through this, and. So I don't know. I think at worst, I think you gotta have that setup. You maybe run the risk of losing the audience a little bit, I guess, but it doesn't take very long before it gets away from that.
and it doesn't, and I appreciate that. I wish the dialogue had a little bit more cleverness to it than just this is what you need to do. And and then as it gets
Yeah,
out of that,
I can
the
see that.
dialogue does get more spiced up, and I think that the best thing about this is something that I actually didn't realize until I was talking with friends about it afterwards, and they had brought this up, and I'm like, that's absolutely what's going on. The way they bring magic into the lives of the people they encounter along the way
Yeah,
is awesome.
yeah.
And I think, and as they're doing that, like they're discovering the magic of like a brotherly relationship, and that was my favorite part. I was kind of like mush in this movie's hands by the end. It didn't make me cry, so. But my eyes were definitely pregnant with tears throughout most of this movie.
I teared up pretty hard. Yep.
Yeah, it's great. I can't really say much more without getting into spoilers, but on just a visceral emotional response and the way it uses its structure. Also, I'm a guy who likes a sweet car chase. There is a sweet car chase in this movie.
Yeah, there is.
And like the animation is great, but
the coolest thing about that chase is not the chase; it's after it stopped, which is really cool. Which is kind of neat. Because I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting what the brother does in that scene. And it's cool.
And they're the way they'll like have a plot device happen. There's a plot device that involves shrinking, and at first I thought, oh no, it's just for this one thing to instigate conflict, but it actually has multiple things that it ends up accomplishing.
You know what? I will complain about one thing. There is some
that?
convenient timing in that scene.
Sure.
There is some absolute convenient timing. There's a shrinking thing, and then we bring in some smaller characters because a character just got shrunk to that size, and then when those characters are gone, that character immediately becomes normal size again.
Okay. That is true. That is true. But the
if you need a negative, there it is. I can find the small stuff. Literally the small stuff.
Small stuff. Yeah. But like what that accomplishes on a character level for the other brother, I think is really
great.
Good.
That needs to happen.
I thought this was great. I mean, if I had to give this like a numerical score, I'd say an 8. It didn't like blow my socks off, but for being what it is, it's just a great version of what it is. And like I think numbers are just kind of arbitrary. I'm gonna watch this for like years to come, and it reminded me of like Finding Nemo. And
are you with me on the instant classic thing? I think this one sticks with people.
I don't know.
I think this one sticks with kids. I really do. I think this is one of those that some kids will grow up with, and it'll be that movie they watch and repeat all the time.
I hope that's the case. I'm really bad at determining the zeitgeist. Like I'm really, really bad at it.
Hey,
but, I hope
I don't have to be good at it. I'll do it anyway. I'll try anyway. But I don't know. I had that feeling in the theater where I was like, I feel like, and also keep in mind, I took my son, and I'm like influenced by that, and he was immersed and couldn't stop talking about it afterwards. I mean, he was just in love with it, and he said the same thing I did. He was walking out, and he just looked at me because. You can imagine my son is trying to learn to figure out the critical thinking thing, and he's wanting to be critical of things. And we're walking to the car, and he's racking his brain, and he goes, "Dad, I can't think of anything I would change." And I'm like, "It's really good." Like,
yeah, I can't wait to take my little brother to go see this. I think he would love it. But by the time they got on that quest, it's such a good quest. The Dragonette in this movie, the roar is one of the most clever things I've seen in an animated movie in some time. It's really cool, and no attention is like drawn to it. It's not an Illumination movie. It's so clever. But I felt so vindicated throughout most of the runtime.
I also think there's a cool there's kind of a thematic thing. I think there's a symbol going on with the way that. with the way that dragon is put together. It's great.
I can't wait to go watch it again because this first time I felt elation because I felt so vindicated by it being good.
If I can find the time, I will go to the theater to see this again, which is the last thing I thought I would say coming out of this. Nice. Like, I thought at best I would go, yeah, it's great, but it ain't for me, and it's one of those things that won me over. And as you know, Connor, I get more excited about that than anything these days. Or if a thing in a genre that I don't care about at all, I gets me excited, and I'm really impressed with the story. I walk out going, okay, now it feels like one of my favorite things, even if that genre generally isn't that. And that
you were doing our top 10 best movies of the decade. A lot of your picks or stuff. It's something that's not necessarily up my alley, and it made me like that thing.
Uh-huh. And I said recently I've been looking for that thing with fantasy. I said that in a rewind recently.
Yes.
And then this kind of gave me that a little bit. Part of the reason it did, too, is because if I can, and I don't mean this disparagingly, and some people might look at this and say it's too much of the Pixar formula, but I think it's telling a story they've not told before, with, you know, some of the beats that you get in some Pixar movies, and some of the setup and payoff is maybe a little bit typical for them, like stuff that you've kind of seen before, but I didn't see most of it coming from the setup. There's a Again, I don't want to give stuff away. There's a thing at the beginning that is on the news that's a big deal later at the end that I kind of should have seen. I should have known where we were going with that, and I didn't.
That's the thing. Like that first 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, I see what we're all setting up here. Except
but you didn't
see everything they were setting up.
But you didn't, yeah. But what I was gonna say is, the Pixar formula, if I can call it that, helped me get more excited about this than I would have in just a traditional fantasy thing. Generally speaking, what I want is all the tropes of fantasy, but a character piece. Yeah. And this gave me that, and a lot of fantasy stuff, it's more about the world building, and the characters tend to be kind of one or two dimensional, and it isn't that they're not likable and you don't care about them like in something like Lord of the Rings, but there's not like the kind of like human story that you get here. And I've always thought that you can blend those things, that you can have. I'm always talking about literary genre fiction. This is literary genre, and that's what I want from a fantasy thing. I've been waiting for that in a movie, and I got it here.
Yeah. I guess well, I guess like we should wrap up pretty closely here. I don't want to be going here for 45 minutes because you said we shouldn't be here for 45 minutes. All this is a spoiler cast. I mean, I could talk about this for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of those things where,
well, like, what other major things do you want to make sure that we bring up?
I don't really have any.
Sure,
but I was
sure.
just gonna say that like I have this thing where if I really hate something or I really love something, shortly after it starts slipping my mind because the immense love or the immense hatred all of a sudden just kind of filters everything out. So I just want to go back and watch it again and see all the stuff I missed. And
yeah, sure. But I feel like this one's sticking with me pretty well.
Sorry, what was that?
But I do feel like this one's sticking with me pretty well. I'm not coming into this review going, I can't think of like certain scene, like what happened there. Well, like I feel like I could break it down pretty well.
Yeah. I will say that the way it uses genre is it uses genre to accent the story. It's a lot like Finding Nemo in that way, where does Finding Nemo need to be in the ocean? Not really, but all that clever ocean stuff really like adds to that story.
Boy, that's a great point you're making. Yeah, this didn't have to be done with magic.
Yeah, and so but the way it uses the tropes and like just not even the tropes, but the trappings of the fantasy genre, like elves and fairies and magic and the legendary quests, like all that stuff adds to these archetypes, and the way it like kind of like blends stuff together, like, you know, sitcom suburbia stuff. I thought that was great. So Sing Street was like my second favorite. I listed that as number 2 of my favorite movies of this last decade. I got Sing Street vibes from this movie.
Oh, interesting.
In terms of like the brother story that's going on here,
sure.
In terms of like an older brother who is like kind of the screw up, but he has a very passionate interest that, you know, the younger brother learns to adopt, and like that all stuff. Like it gave me Sing Street vibes, and that's very high praise coming from me. And what I dislike most about fantasy movies is how they put world building and like creating a world and like propping up characters and setting them on the board so that we can tell future movies in.
Yeah.
But then they never get a second movie because Seventh Son is awful, and God of Egypt is atrocious, and like all these fantasy movies, like
And nobody cared about Warcraft.
and nobody cared about Warcraft and like City of Bones. Who remembers that? Like that's because like all these movies like they're kind of the same thing where they're just setting up the world and like the cardboard cutout of the characters so we can do something more with them later. It's kind of what Sonic was in my mind.
Yeah.
And I guess that movie's getting a sequel, but most of the time they don't.
Yeah.
And with this, they actually did make me want to see more of this world because they organically built it with their characters and the story they put those characters in.
And what's cool is it's about a society that also doesn't care about the world building, and that at the end, the society starts to like the world it's in more.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's great.
You like this. I'm so glad you like this like as much as I did, maybe even more than I did.
It sounds like I might have dug this more than you, and I'm hesitating. I'm trying not to be hyperbolic. This is one of those things where it got me. It got me so much. I was so in a place. I was so surprised by it that I might be liking it more than I usually would. Because like everything is relative. So I don't know. Second or third viewing, maybe I won't be as impressed with this. But right now, I got a Cloud 9 thing with this. It's really good. It also helps that I hadn't seen any good movies yet this year, and this is really good. So all things are relative. So I don't know. Take all those things with a grain of salt. At the moment, this is killer. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think everybody should watch it, even if they thought that premise looked lame.
Of the 3 movies I've seen this year, this is the best one. So,
yeah. What did real briefly? What did you think of the Simpsons short?
I mean, I thought it was a cute short. It's just
same here.
Weird that we live in a world where I hear the Grease Films chime before watching, like first of all in a theater, and then second of all like before I see the Disney logo. It was strange, but it was a cute short. What did you think?
What was weird about that for me was the way that it was exactly half a Simpsons thing and half a Disney thing. It's plotted like a Pixar short, and the humor is Simpsons humor, and those two things are like perfectly married, but they don't seem like two people that would have gotten married in the first place, where you're like, I'm not seeing why these things are attracted to each other. It sounds like they had maybe an obligation to the families to get married in the first place, which is kind of what it is. Because it was a strange choice to put that in front of a Pixar movie when Pixar has had so many shorts in front of things, and the Toy Story 4 just didn't even have one. And now we finally do one again. And it's Simpsons, and I thought it was touching. I thought it was very funny. I appreciated that it didn't shy away from, because it's silent. There's no talking in that, which I thought was kind of a neat thing to do with Simpsons. But also the thing that makes it a Pixar short, or one of the things that makes it feel like a Pixar short. And again, it's not the Pixar house doing it, but they know what it's in front of, and it feels like they're trying to do a Pixar short.
Right. Yeah.
But all of the jokes on the signs are not shying away from Simpsons humor, and there's some kind of like cynical stuff on those signs like you always do in Simpsons humor, and I'm like, this is the most authentic feeling Simpsons thing I've seen in a while also, and that's weird.
Yeah, also I was thinking, what does it say about like how our society has changed that we're putting a Simpsons short in front of the biggest family like entertainment like brand in the world? That's insane.
I feel very strange about that.
Yeah.
The Simpsons is not a kid show. And even when I was growing up, a lot of parents didn't seem to know that, and Fox absolutely capitalized on that. In merchandising and things, certainly. There were so many Simpsons video games. It played like a franchise that was for children. It wasn't.
And I was born like post Simpsons, like I was born during their 7th season, I think, but yeah, but like it's one of those things where my dad clearly loved The Simpsons, but he never really brought it up around me because he wasn't sure if he should show his kids The Simpsons. But then eventually in middle school I watched remakes, and then my dad, like, he would all like, once we discovered The Simpsons and we're laughing, he's like, you guys are in like late elementary school, early middle school. Okay, fine. We watched The Simpsons all the time after that. So
the way the world, to your point a minute ago, and then we'll wrap up, the way the world has changed in just the last few years is absolutely mind-boggling. And I'll just take this to video games for a second. So a few years ago, we had Disney Infinity. which was a bunch of Disney things. It was Toys to Life game. And then a couple years later, we got Lego Dimensions. And in Lego Dimensions was The Simpsons. And now, if Disney Infinity was still being made, you could have The Simpsons in Disney Infinity. And what has happened? The whole world blew up.
That's insane.
It's insane!
One last thing I'll say about the short. I would be more upset about it if we weren't getting a second Pixar movie this year.
Sure, yeah.
And because, like, I want Pixar shorts, you know?
Yeah.
Like, Toy Story 4, I guess, was their longest movie that the studio had ever made, so that's why they didn't have a short in front of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, and then with this, look, I'm really excited for Soul. Pete Docter is my favorite from the Pixar stable, and this is his new movie.
It looks cool.
I really hope we have a Pixar short in front of that, because if we don't, I'm going to be upset, because I like Pixar shorts.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. They didn't have another movie this year they could have put that in front of. I mean, I wouldn't do it in front of Mulan or anything, but like they got nothing else to put in front. Wouldn't that have been really funny? It's just like Disney welcomes The Simpsons, and then you get like this really serious like Chinese war movie.
What if we do get another Simpsons short in front of Mulan, and it's like Lisa training to be like, you know, the bride from Kill Bill or something, and it's just that would be insane.
That'd be nuts. Okay, I just thought of a thing that we should have brought up earlier and that we didn't about the movie. But we are to a place with that animation where it is getting scary how real certain things look.
Yeah,
it's getting scary.
So I was talking to one of my ex-girlfriends, she's really into animation, and we watched this movie, me and her watched this movie with other people, and it was insane because like we were talking about this, and she had said that like the animation was like insanely good, and I was like, yeah, like with Toy Story 4, okay, so the difference of animation between Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3 is shocking. I remember watching Toy Story 3, I was like, that's insane. And then from Toy Story 3 to Toy Story 4, I was like, okay, it's probably not going to be that big of a difference.
It still was.
It's that big of a difference.
Yeah.
Toy Story 4, those toys look real, and that's like I think the first computer animated movie to be like rendered in 4K, like authentically in 4K. I don't know how long, and like that probably is where most of the budget went into, maybe. But with this, it wasn't as big of a wow factor to me as Toy Story 4 was in terms of the animation, but they also have like the Good Dinosaur thing where the character designs are more cartoony than like the environments.
That's the thing.
This looks much better than the Good Dinosaur did in terms of blending the characters and the figures.
And I missed that one, but what I was gonna say is I actually think the characters are too stylized in this movie for some of the landscapes, because there are shots without any people in them where I'm like, if you just sent me that still, I would think that was photography. And then you put these characters in it, and I don't mean to say that it looks like Roger Rabbit where like you put cartoon characters in, but like it blends well enough. We are gonna get to a place, we're kind of already there, where it does feel a little bit weird to stylize your characters that much in a world that looks as much as the one we live in.
Yeah, and that was something I was like, wow, when I saw like the Good Dinosaur.
Sometimes it just doesn't even look animated. It's like, should it look that good? I think it's like is a discussion we can have. You know what I mean?
And that was definitely like a discussion my brother and I had when we did see the Good Dinosaur. I'd be interested to know what you thought about the Good Dinosaur. It's not great. It's probably the weakest Pixar movie.
I'll try to watch that sometime soon. I keep meaning to, and I just never got around to it.
But I think you would have like that. Like you'd have it worse there. Oh crap, we're freezing up.
You're right.
Okay.
We're almost done.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah. I'd just be curious to hear you coming back to this after Good Dinosaur, because I think they do the Good Dinosaur animation blending with the photorealistic backdrops and environments. It blends a lot better here than it did in the other one. So.
I will do that. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We will be back again soon with another one. And man, I'm so happy that I got to enjoy this as much as I did, because this was not a thing I cared about, and it's probably in my at least top 5 at the moment. So yay. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm Captain Logan. This was Connor Nielsen.
Well, bye everybody.
There, folks.